The morning light filtered through the dusty blinds of the Bluebird diner, casting long shadows across the checkered floor. Lily wiped down the counter with practiced strokes, her movements as familiar as breathing after 3 years of serving at this small-town establishment. The clock on the wall ticked steadily toward 6, opening time, and she could already spot a few regulars waiting outside, hands cupped around their eyes as they peered through the glass door. "Coffee's ready," called out Joe, the cook who had been flipping pancakes at the Bluebird since before Lily was born. His weathered face crinkled into a smile as he slid a steaming mug across the prep counter. "Thanks," Lily said, taking a grateful sip. The warmth spread through her tired body. She had been up late again, poring over bills at her kitchen table, calculator in hand, trying to stretch her tips far enough to cover rent, utilities, and her mom's medications. The diner wasn't much to look at: cracked vinyl booths, mismatched salt and pepper shakers, and walls adorned with fading photographs of the town's history, but it had a soul that fancy restaurants often lacked. In the corner sat an old upright piano, its mahogany finish dulled with age. The owner, Mrs. Chen, had inherited it along with the building and kept it more as a decoration than an instrument. Lily unlocked the front door precisely at 6, greeting Mr. Wilson with a smile. "Morning. Sunshine," he said, shuffling to his usual booth by the window. "Any chance of those blueberry pancakes today?" "Joe's got the batter ready just for you," she replied, grabbing a menu she knew he wouldn't need. Mr. Wilson had been ordering the same breakfast every Tuesday for as long as she'd worked there. As the morning rush began, Lily moved between tables with the grace of a dancer, balancing plates along her arm, refilling coffee cups before they were empty, and somehow remembering who wanted their eggs over easy and who preferred them scrambled. Her feet ached in her worn sneakers, but she kept her smile genuine. These people were more than customers. They were neighbors, friends, and sometimes the closest thing to family she had in this town. During a rare lull, Lily found herself drawn to the piano. Her fingers brushed against the closed lid, gathering dust. She glanced around to make sure no one was watching, then carefully lifted it. The ivory keys were yellowed with age, some chipped at the edges but still beautiful to her eyes. "You play?" Mrs. Chen appeared so suddenly that Lily yanked her hand back as if burned. "I used to," she admitted, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Long time ago?" Mrs. Chen nodded thoughtfully. "Piano belonged to my father. He loved music. Now it sits, no one plays except sometimes on Friday nights when college boy comes to make noise he calls jazz." She chuckled, the lines around her eyes deepening. "You should play sometime." Lily shook her head quickly. "Oh, I couldn't, I'm really out of practice." The bell above the door jingled, signaling new customers, and Lily was grateful for the interruption. She hurried back to work, pushing away memories of childhood recitals and the smell of polish on the grand piano at her teacher's house. The lunch crowd arrived like clockwork: construction workers from the site down the road, office staff from the municipal building, and teachers from the high school on their brief break. Lily knew most of their orders by heart, jotting them down only as a formality. "You're a miracle worker," said Ms. Taylor, the librarian, as Lily managed to find space on her table for a plate of fries, despite the open books and papers spread everywhere. "How do you keep track of everything?" Lily shrugged. "Just part of the job." But it was more than that. Lily had always had a gift for rhythm and timing. Her old piano teacher, Mrs. Winters, used to say she had a metronome in her soul. That same sense of timing now helped her coordinate multiple orders, remember who needed refills, and anticipate when a table was ready for their check. By mid-afternoon, the diner emptied out. Lily counted her tips. Not bad for a Tuesday, but not great either. She'd have to pick up an extra shift this week if she wanted to make the electric bill without dipping into her emergency fund. That fund was sacred, meant for only 2 things: her mom's medical expenses and the dream she kept tucked away like a precious photograph, edges worn from being handled too often. That dream involved music school, specifically the State College's music program, just 50 miles away, but might as well be on the moon for how accessible it felt. At 25, Lily sometimes wondered if she was too old to start again, if the years of not playing had dulled whatever talent she once had. "Table 6 needs cleaning," called Joe, interrupting her thoughts. Lily tucked the money into her pocket and grabbed a rag. As she wiped down the table, her gaze drifted to the wall where a flyer announced "Open Mic Night" at the local coffee shop. She'd seen it many times but always looked away quickly. Today, something made her pause. "You should go," said a voice beside her. Lily turned to find Ben, the dishwasher and part-time community college student gathering dirty dishes. His observant eyes missed nothing. "Go where?" she asked, pretending not to understand. Ben nodded toward the flyer. "Open mic. I've heard you humming while you work. You've got music in you." Lily felt her cheeks warm. Just because someone hums doesn't mean they can perform. "Maybe," Ben shrugged. "But you also stare at that piano like it holds all the secrets of the universe." When Lily didn't respond, he added more gently, "Everyone needs something that's just for them, you know? Something that makes the rest of it worthwhile." His words followed her through the afternoon as she served pie to the retired postal workers who gathered daily to discuss town politics, and as she helped Mrs. Chen with inventory in the cramped storage room. Did she still have music in her? Could her fingers remember the patterns they once knew so well? Lily hadn't touched a piano since her mom got sick 7 years ago. After her dad left, there had been no money for lessons, no time for practice. The upright they'd had at home was sold to pay medical bills. Lily had wrapped her dreams in tissue paper and put them on a shelf, focusing instead on practical matters, jobs that paid now, not possibilities that might pay someday. At 5 o'clock, the dinner crowd began to trickle in. Families with children just out of after-school activities, couples on casual dates, solo diners with books or phones for company. Lily switched from coffee to soda refills, from breakfast orders to the comfort food specials that Joe prepared with pride. When Piano Pete arrived at 6 to set up for his weekly performance, Lily felt the familiar mix of envy and nostalgia. Every Friday, the piano came to life under his fingers, transforming the humble diner into something magical. Customers lingered longer, ordered more desserts, and left better tips. Pete wasn't even particularly good. He played with more enthusiasm than skill, but he played, and that was more than Lily could say for herself. "Need help setting up?" she offered, as she always did. "Nah, I'm good," Pete replied, placing sheet music on the stand. "But thanks, Lily." He hesitated, then added, "You know, I'm going to be away next week. Family thing in Chicago. Mrs. Chen's looking for someone to fill in." Lily's heart skipped a beat before she firmly squashed the feeling. "I'm sure she'll find someone," she said, turning away to refill water glasses. "She mentioned you might play," Pete called after her. "Said your hands look like pianist hands." Lily nearly spilled the water. "She's mistaken," she said quickly. "I wait tables. That's all." But later, as the diner quieted and Pete's music filled the space, Lily found herself watching his hands. His fingers danced across the keys, sometimes hitting wrong notes but never stopping, never giving up on the melody. The customers didn't seem to mind the mistakes. They were transported by the music, their faces softer in the dim evening light. What would it be like to create that magic again? The question haunted Lily as she finished her shift, counted her tips, and walked the 6 blocks to her small apartment. The night was clear, stars visible despite the town's lights, and she found herself humming one of Chopin's nocturnes, her mother's favorite piece, the one Lily had practiced for hours until it flowed like water from her fingers. Inside her apartment, she stood in the darkness for a moment before turning on the lights. The space was small but neat, a living room that doubled as a bedroom, a kitchenette, a bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. No room for a piano, not even a keyboard. But maybe, she thought as she got ready for bed, that wasn't the point. Maybe the music had been inside her all along, waiting for the right moment to be heard again. As she drifted off to sleep, Lily's fingers moved slightly, playing invisible keys. In her dreams, she was back at the Bluebird, but this time she was seated at the piano, and everyone was watching as she took a deep breath and began to play. Friday arrived with a thunderstorm that drummed against the Bluebird diner's roof and sent rivers down the windows. Lily hurried inside, shaking raindrops from her jacket. The diner was unusually quiet. Bad weather meant fewer customers willing to brave the elements for Joe's meatloaf special. "Some pianist," grumbled Mrs. Chen from behind the register. "Call last minute. Say car broke down. No music tonight?" Lily hung her wet jacket in the back room. "Pete canceled?" "Yes, very bad for business. Friday night, people expect music." Mrs. Chen sighed, looking at the empty tables. Maybe rain already keep people away. Throughout her shift, Lily caught Mrs. Chen glancing repeatedly at the silent piano, then at the door as if hoping Pete might still appear. The few customers who did venture in asked about the music. By 7 o'clock, when the rain finally stopped and more people began to arrive, Mrs. Chen's disappointment was palpable. Lily served a young couple their dessert, 2 slices of Joe's famous apple pie, when she overheard the woman say, "I was really looking forward to the live music. My sister said it's what makes this place special on Fridays." Something twisted in Lily's chest. She'd seen how hard Mrs. Chen worked to keep the Bluebird going in a town where 2 other diners had closed in the past year. Friday nights were their lifeline. The music transformed the place from just somewhere to eat into somewhere to be. During her break, Lily found herself standing by the piano again. She lifted the lid and pressed one key, then another, feeling the familiar resistance beneath her fingertips. The notes hung in the air, slightly out of tune, but still beautiful. "You should play." Lily turned to find Ben watching her, a stack of clean plates in his hands. "I told you." "I'm out of practice," she said, closing the lid gently. "So what? It's not Carnegie Hall." When Lily didn't respond, he added, "Mrs. Chen's worried about losing customers. They come for the music as much as the food." "I know, but what? What's the worst that could happen?" Lily could think of plenty of worst-case scenarios. She could freeze up, hit all the wrong notes, make a fool of herself in front of everyone she saw day after day. Or worse, she might love it and then have to face giving it up all over again. A burst of laughter from a nearby table drew her attention. A family was celebrating something, candles on a cake, presents wrapped in colorful paper. The diner wasn't just a place to work. It was where life happened for so many people. Lily took a deep breath. "Fine, one song." Ben's face lit up. "Really?" "Don't make me change my mind," she warned, but couldn't help smiling at his enthusiasm. "Hey, Mrs. Chen," Ben called across the diner. "Lily's gonna play." Mrs. Chen hurried over, eyes wide with hope. "You play piano?" "For real?" "I used to," Lily admitted. "I'm very rusty, but I could do one song, maybe. Just so people don't feel cheated out of the Friday night experience." Mrs. Chen clasped her hands together. Yes, very good. You play, I give you Pete's money for tonight." "Oh no, I couldn't." "Yes, fair is fair. You play, you get paid." Mrs. Chen's tone made it clear this wasn't up for debate. Word spread quickly through the diner. Lily felt her cheeks burn as customers turned to look at her with interest. Mr. Wilson, at his usual table with his wife, gave her an encouraging thumbs up. The young couple with the apple pie whispered excitedly. "Just one song," Lily repeated to herself as she washed her hands in the bathroom, trying to steady her nerves. In the mirror, her reflection looked back with terrified eyes. It had been 7 years. What if her fingers had forgotten everything? When she emerged, someone had cleared a path to the piano. Mrs. Chen had even wiped down the bench. There was no backing out now. Lily sat down, adjusting the height of the seat. The keys looked both foreign and familiar, like running into an old friend whose face you can't quite place. She placed her hands in position, surprised at how naturally they curved over the keys. What to play? Her mind raced through possibilities. Classical seemed too pretentious for the Bluebird. Pop might be expected, but wasn't what she loved. Then she remembered a piece her mother had adored, a simple, haunting melody from a film they'd watched together countless times during her mom's illness. Lily took a deep breath and began to play. The first few notes were hesitant, her fingers stiff from years of disuse, but muscle memory is a powerful thing. By the 4th measure, her hands remembered what her mind had forgotten. The melody flowed, filling the diner with a sound so different from Pete's jaunty tunes that conversation stopped mid-sentence. Lily closed her eyes, letting the music carry her. Each note was a word in a language she'd once been fluent in, now returning to her tongue. Her left hand found the bass notes that anchored the piece, while her right wove the delicate melody line. She'd forgotten the middle section and improvised, adding her own emotion to the composer's intent. When the final notes faded, Lily kept her eyes closed, afraid to see the reaction. The silence stretched for 1 heartbeat, 2, 3, then erupted into applause. She opened her eyes to find every person in the diner watching her, some with open mouths, others with wide smiles. "Play another." Someone called out. "Yes, more," added Mrs. Chen, clapping enthusiastically. So Lily played again. And again. Her repertoire was limited to pieces she could remember. But she discovered that her hands knew more than her mind did. They found patterns and progressions that felt right, creating music that might not have been perfect but was undeniably alive. Between songs, customers ordered more food, more drinks, lingering at their tables. Mrs. Chen's eyes shone as she calculated the extra business. Joe poked his head out from the kitchen to listen, spatula still in hand. During a brief break when Lily's fingers needed rest, Ben brought her a glass of water. "I knew it," he said, grinning. "You're a hidden genius." Lily rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress her smile. "Hardly, but it feels good, really good." "You should see your face," he said. "It's like you're a completely different person when you play." Before she could respond, Mrs. Chen hurried over with a plate of Joe's special chocolate cake. "On the house," she insisted. "For saving Friday night." As the evening wore on, Lily lost track of time. She played until her fingers ached sweetly, a pain she had once been familiar with. The diner stayed open an hour past closing, no one willing to break the spell that had fallen over the place. When she finally stood up from the bench, her legs wobbled slightly. "Same time next Friday?" Mrs. Chen asked, pressing a handful of bills into Lily's palm. Far more than Pete would have earned. Lily looked around at the diner, transformed by what had happened. Yes, I guess so." She walked home that night with her tip money and piano pay in her pocket, enough to cover the electric bill with some left over. But more valuable was the feeling in her chest. A door long closed had cracked open again. At her apartment, she couldn't sleep. Her fingers kept moving, playing phantom melodies on her bedspread. She dug through her closet until she found an old shoebox. Inside were the few mementos she'd kept from before. Sheet music, yellowed and creased. A program from her last recital. A photograph of her at 12, sitting proudly at a grand piano. She traced the image with her fingertip, remembering the girl who had believed music would be her life. That path had closed, but maybe another one was opening. A different kind of music life, not what she'd planned, but perhaps exactly what she needed. Lily fell asleep with the photograph on her nightstand, dreaming of melodies yet to be played. In the morning, she woke with a clarity she hadn't felt in years, and a decision already made in her heart. The Bluebirds' piano might be out of tune and Pete's Friday night crowd might not be Carnegie Hall, but it was a start. Her start, and for the first time in 7 years, that felt like enough. 3 weeks after Lily's first impromptu performance, the Bluebird Diner had transformed on Friday nights. The usual crowd had doubled, then tripled. People lined up outside before opening, hoping to snag the best tables near the piano. Mrs. Chen had started taking reservations, something she'd always claimed was too fancy. "For a place like the Bluebird, we need bigger place," she told Lily one afternoon as they folded napkins together. "Or maybe second piano night, Tuesday? People ask all week when you play again." Lily tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, still not used to the attention. "I don't know if I'm ready for twice a week. I need time to practice if I'm going to keep doing this." The truth was, Lily had been practicing on a small electronic keyboard she'd found at a pawn shop. It wasn't much, just 61 keys with plastic action, nothing like a real piano. But it was enough to work through the rust in her technique. Each night after her shift, she played until her downstairs neighbor thumped on the ceiling. "You think about what I say." Mrs. Chen nodded, her eyes shrewd. Better pay for 2 nights. The money was tempting. Lily's mother's medical bills had piled up again after a recent hospital stay. But there was something else. Something Lily wasn't ready to admit out loud. She wanted to be better. Not just better than Pete, but better than she'd been before. The more she played, the more she remembered what it felt like to truly make music, not just press keys in the right order. That Friday, Lily arrived early to tune the old upright as best she could. She'd watched tutorials online, armed herself with a tuning app on her phone, and spent an hour adjusting the strings until the worst offenders were fixed. It wouldn't match a professional tuning, but it was better than nothing. "You fixed piano?" Mrs. Chen asked, watching from the doorway. "Just a bit," Lily replied, closing the lid. "It needed some attention." Mrs. Chen nodded approvingly. "Like plant need water, music need care." By 6 o'clock, every table was full. Lily recognized many faces from previous weeks, but there were newcomers too. A man in a crisp button-down shirt sat alone in the corner, notepad in hand. A group of college-aged kids clustered around 2 pushed-together tables, phones at the ready. "Big crowd tonight," Ben commented as they passed each other. Him carrying clean dishes, her balancing 3 plates of meatloaf. Too big, Lily muttered. I'm nervous. You'll be great, he assured her. Oh, and check your phone when you get a chance. I sent you something. It wasn't until her dinner break that Lily had a moment to look at her phone. Ben had sent her a link to a video. With a jolt, she recognized herself at the piano, playing a wistful rendition of an old jazz standard from 2 weeks ago. The video had over 2,000 views. Where did you get this? She asked Ben when she found him in the kitchen. Didn't take it, he said, hands raised in defense. Some customer posted it. It's been making the rounds locally. Pretty cool, right? Lily wasn't sure cool was the word. Exposed, maybe. Vulnerable. Yet there was also a flutter of something else. Pride. The comments below the video were overwhelmingly positive. Who is this? She's amazing. Does she play anywhere else? This made me cry. In a good way. At 8 o'clock, Mrs. Chen announced it was time for the music to begin. Lily made her way to the piano, conscious of every eye in the room following her. She sat down, adjusted the bench, and placed her hands on the keys. The diner fell silent in anticipation. This time, Lily started with confidence. She'd planned a set list, practiced transitions between songs, even worked out a few stories to tell between pieces. The music flowed from her fingers with more assurance than before, though still not perfectly. Each wrong note made her wince internally, but the audience either didn't notice or didn't care. Halfway through her second song, the bell above the door jingled. Lily glanced up to see a tall woman in her 60s enter, her silver hair cut in a stylish bob. Something about her seemed familiar, but Lily couldn't place her. The woman took the only available seat, a stool at the counter, and ordered coffee, her gaze never leaving the piano. After an hour of playing, Lily took a break. Her fingers were sore, but in the best way. As she made her way to the back for a glass of water, the silver-haired woman intercepted her. You don't remember me, do you? She asked, her voice rich and slightly accented. Lily studied her face. I'm sorry, have we met? I'm Victoria Winters. I was your piano teacher many years ago. Lily's heart skipped a beat. Mrs. Winters had been more than a teacher. She'd been a guiding light, someone who saw potential in a shy girl from a struggling family. Mrs. Winters, I didn't recognize you with your new hairstyle. And you've grown up, Mrs. Winters smiled. I heard about a waitress playing piano at the local diner. I had to see if it was my former star pupil. Hardly a star, Lily demurred, though warmth spread through her chest at the compliment. You were always too modest. Mrs. Winters sipped her coffee. You stopped coming to lessons so abruptly. I worried about you. My mom got sick, Lily explained. Dad left. We had to sell the piano. There wasn't money for lessons anymore. Understanding softened Mrs. Winters' face. I'm sorry to hear that. How is your mother now? Managing, Lily said simply. Good days and bad. Mrs. Winters nodded, then leaned forward slightly. You've maintained your technique remarkably well, considering. But I can hear the gaps in your training. The potential is still there, Lily. It's not too late. Too late for what? To study seriously. To make something of your gift. Lily glanced around the diner, at the customers waiting for her to return to the piano, at Mrs. Chen tallying receipts with a satisfied smile, at Ben watching their conversation with undisguised curiosity. This is my life now, Lily said, gesturing to the blue bird. I can't just... I'm not suggesting you abandon your responsibilities, Mrs. Winters interrupted gently. But I'm teaching at the community college now. We have scholarships, evening classes. She reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. Think about it. My advanced class meets Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7. You could at least sit in, see if it interests you. Lily took the card, turning it over in her fingers. I don't know, I just visit once. No commitment. Mrs. Winters stood up. I have to go, my husband is waiting for me. But it was wonderful to see you playing again. You have a gift, Lily. Gifts are meant to be nurtured. After Mrs. Winters left, Lily returned to the piano with her head spinning. She played mechanically at first, her thoughts elsewhere. A formal class? Back to scales and theory and proper technique? It seemed impossible with her schedule, her responsibilities, her life as it was. Yet as the music reclaimed her attention, she found herself wondering. The pieces she was playing now were the same ones she'd known 7 years ago. What would it be like to learn new music? To grow beyond where she'd stopped? When the night ended, Mrs. Chen pressed an envelope into Lily's hand. Extra, she said with a wink. Very good business tonight. At home, Lily counted the money twice, hardly believing the amount. Between her regular wages, tips, and the piano pay, she'd made more in one night than she usually did in a week. If she could maintain this, plus maybe add another night, her phone buzzed with a text from Ben. "Check your video. It's taking off." The view count had jumped to over 10,000. Someone had shared it in a music forum, and from there it had spread. Comments poured in from people across the country, even a few from overseas. Lily sat on her bed, keyboard balanced on her knees, Mrs. Winter's card propped against her lamp. The paths before her seemed to multiply by the minute. Continue as she was, take classes, add another night at the diner, maybe even look for other venues. For so long, her life had been about surviving day to day. Now possibilities stretched before her like sheet music waiting to be played. She placed her fingers on the keyboard and began to practice a piece she hadn't touched in years, a challenging Chopin etude that had once been just beyond her abilities. Her fingers stumbled over the difficult passages, but she kept going, repeating the troublesome measures until they began to smooth out. Outside her window, the moon rose over the small town that had been her whole world for so long. Maybe it still would be, or maybe, like the music now filling her tiny apartment, her life was about to expand into something more complex and beautiful than she'd dared to imagine. The community college classroom felt strange to Lily. After years of serving food and counting tips, she now sat among students of various ages, a notebook open on the desk before her. At the front of the room, Mrs. Winters explained chord progressions with the same enthusiasm Lily remembered from childhood. "You're picking this up remarkably fast," Mrs. Winters told her after class, as other students filed out. "It's like you never stopped studying." Lily smiled, though exhaustion pulled at the corners of her mouth. For the past month, she'd been working morning shifts at the Bluebird, playing piano Friday and now Tuesday nights, attending Mrs. Winters' class twice a week, and practicing every spare moment. Sleep had become a luxury she couldn't afford. "The theory is coming back," Lily admitted. "It's my technique that's still rough." "That will come with time and proper practice," Mrs. Winters assured her. "Speaking of which, have you thought more about the scholarship program? Applications are due next week." The scholarship would cover a full year in the college's music program. Real classes, proper training, even access to practice rooms with grand pianos. The opportunity dangled before Lily like a dream just out of reach. "I've been thinking about it," she said carefully, "but I don't see how I can manage classes during the day when I need to work." "There are evening sections for most requirements," Mrs. Winters pointed out. "And the program includes work-study positions. Even so, the Bluebird needs me. Mrs. Chen has been so good to me, especially now with the piano nights. I can't just cut my hours." Mrs. Winters studied her for a moment. "You've always put others first, Lily. But sometimes you need to consider what's best for your gift. Music like yours deserves to be developed." Lily gathered her books, unsure how to respond. The idea of formally studying music again filled her with longing, but her practical side calculated bills, responsibilities, and promises made. Back at her apartment, she found a letter waiting from the hospital, another bill for her mother's treatment. Lily sank onto her bed, calculator in hand. Even with her increased income from the piano nights, the numbers didn't add up. Her phone chimed with a notification, another comment on her video, which had now been viewed over 50,000 times. This one was different, though. "Amazing talent. I represent Riverfront Music Hall. We'd love to discuss having you perform at our venue. Please contact me at..." Lily read the message 3 times. Riverfront was the fanciest place in the area, hosting professional musicians from across the state. Surely this was a joke or a scam. She showed the comment to Ben the next day at work. "That's legitimate," he said, eyebrows raised. "My cousin works security there. Riverfront pays their performers really well." "They probably think I'm better than I am," Lily protested. "That video only shows me playing simple pieces. Or maybe you're better than you think." Ben handed back her phone. "What have you got to lose by calling them?" Everything, Lily thought. Her comfortable routine. Her safety net. The certainty of what each day would bring. That Friday night, the Bluebird was packed as usual. Lily played with a distracted mind, her thoughts jumping between the scholarship application, the Riverfront offer, her mother's medical bills, and Mrs. Chen's obvious delight at the full house. During her break, she noticed a new face at the counter. a woman in her 40s with bright red glasses and an expensive-looking coat. She caught Lily's eye and waved her over. "I'm Diane from Riverfront," she said, extending a hand. "I left that comment on your video. Hope you don't mind me stopping by to hear you in person." Lily shook her hand, nerves making her palms sweaty. "Not at all. Though I should warn you, I'm not professionally trained." "Could have fooled me," Diane smiled. "You have a quality that can't be taught. You make people feel something when you play. That's rare." She slid a business card across the counter. "We'd like to offer you a monthly spot. Second Saturday of each month to start. If that goes well, we could discuss something more regular." The offer was better than Lily could have imagined, triple what the Bluebird paid for just one night. But there was a catch. "The next second Saturday is when Mrs. Chen is hosting her Lunar New Year celebration," Lily said. "She's counting on me to play. I couldn't miss that." Disappointment flickered across Diane's face. "I understand loyalty, but opportunities like this don't come along often. Think about it." She stood to leave. "Call me by Monday if you want the spot. Otherwise, we'll have to book someone else." After Diane left, Lily returned to the piano, her mind a storm of conflicting thoughts. The second half of her set was mechanical, her heart not in the music. Only Mrs. Chen seemed to notice, giving her a concerned look as she closed out the register at the end of the night. "Something wrong with piano?" she asked. "No, the piano's fine," Lily assured her. "I'm just tired," Mrs. Chen nodded sagely. "Too much. Too busy now. School, work, piano here." "It's a lot," Lily admitted. "You get offer, yes?" Lady in red glasses, Lily looked up, startled. "How did you—" "I know these things." Mrs. Chen waved a hand dismissively. "Important place once you play for them." "Riverfront Music Hall," Lily confirmed. "But it's the same night as your New Year celebration." Something shifted in Mrs. Chen's expression. Pride mixed with resignation. "Ah, big chance for you." "I told her I couldn't miss your celebration," Lily hurried to add. Mrs. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she closed the register drawer with a decisive click. "You sit. We talk." They sat at a corner table, the diner empty now except for Ben, who was mopping the floor and pretending not to listen. "When I first come to this country, I have big dream," Mrs. Chen began. "Not diner, music." Lily blinked in surprise. "You were a musician, singer." "In my country, I study opera." She laughed at Lily's expression. "Yes, hard to believe now, but true. I come here, no one want Chinese opera singer. No connections, accent too strong. So I work in restaurant. Save money. Think maybe someday I try again." She sighed. "Then life happened. Marriage, children, this place. Dream gets smaller until I pack it away." "I'm sorry," Lily said softly. "No, sorry." Mrs. Chen shook her head firmly. "Good life. Happy family. Successful business. But always wonder what if." She reached across the table and took Lily's hand. "Don't wonder what if. Young talent need room to grow. Like plant in too small pot. But the Bluebird's still here if music not work out. Always place for you. But first you try. Otherwise, 30 years later, you serving coffee, wondering what if." Tears pricked at Lily's eyes. "The New Year celebration. My nephew play guitar. Not so good as you, but good enough for party." Mrs. Chen squeezed her hand. "You take Riverfront offer. Also school money. The scholarship?" Lily was confused. "How did you know about that?" "Teacher lady come lunch last week. We talk." Lily wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry at the conspiracy that seemed to be forming around her future. "I don't know if I can manage everything, the diner, classes, Riverfront." "Maybe not everything all at once," Mrs. Chen agreed. Maybe time for choice, and there it was, the crossroads Lily had been avoiding. Continue as she was, stretched thin between worlds, or choose a direction and commit to it. The diner represented safety, community, and loyalty. Music school and Riverfront represented risk, growth, and the pursuit of a long-abandoned dream. "I need to think," Lily said finally. That night she couldn't sleep. She sat at her keyboard in the dark, fingers moving silently over the keys, playing melodies only she could hear. Her mother had always told her that big decisions should be made twice. Once with the heart, once with the head. And if they matched, that was the right choice. Her heart pulled her toward music with an intensity that frightened her. But her head calculated risks, reminded her of stability, of gratitude owed, of responsibilities that wouldn't disappear. At dawn, she called her mother. Despite the early hour, her mom answered on the second ring. "I knew you'd call," she said, her voice warm despite the distance. "You're at a crossroads. How did you know?" Lily asked. "A mother knows when her child is facing big decisions. Plus your Mrs. Chen called me." Lily laughed despite herself. "Is there anyone she hasn't talked to? She cares about you." "We all do." Her mother paused. "You know what I'm going to say, don't you? That I should follow my dream? Take the risk? That I'm proud of you no matter what you choose. But yes, that too." After they hung up, Lily watched the sun rise over the town that had shaped her adult life. By the time golden light spilled across her small apartment, she knew what she had to do. She picked up her phone and made 2 calls, one to Diane at Riverfront, one to Mrs. Winters about the scholarship. Then she got ready for her morning shift, where she would tell Mrs. Chen and Ben about her decision. Whatever came next, she wouldn't face it alone. 6 months later, Lily stood backstage at Riverfront Music Hall, peeking through the curtain at the crowd gathering for her performance. What had started as a monthly gig had expanded to bi-weekly appearances, each one drawing larger audiences than the last. Tonight was special, though, her first headlining show. "Nervous?" asked Diane, appearing beside her with a clipboard. "Terrified," Lily admitted. "What if they're disappointed? I'm still not as polished as your usual performers." "That's exactly why they come," Diane said, checking something off her list. "They can get polish anywhere. What you have is authenticity. You play from the heart." Lily smoothed down the simple black dress she'd bought for the occasion, another first. At the Bluebird, she'd played in her waitress uniform, sometimes still wearing her apron. Here she was a featured artist. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ben. "Front row seats secured. Mrs. Chen is wearing her fancy jacket and telling everyone who'll listen that she discovered you." The image made Lily smile. Mrs. Chen had become her biggest cheerleader, even as Lily's schedule at the diner had reduced to just weekends. The Bluebird still felt like home, but now it was one of several places where Lily belonged. 10 minutes, Diane reminded her. "I need to check the sound levels again." Alone backstage, Lily closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The past months had been a whirlwind. Starting music courses, performing at Riverfront, cutting back hours at the diner, and helping Mrs. Chen implement her newest idea. That idea had come about almost by accident. One evening after Lily's weekend shift, a young woman had approached her, nervously clutching sheet music. "I heard you're taking classes at the community college," she'd said. "I want to learn piano, but private lessons are so expensive. Would you consider teaching me? I can pay." Lily had been startled by the request. "I'm still a student myself." "But you're playing at Riverfront," the woman had pointed out. "And I can't afford Mrs. Winters." Mrs. Chen, overhearing the conversation, had jumped in with unexpected enthusiasm. "We have piano right here. Lessons before opening, maybe after closing. Small fee plus percentage to diner for space." And so another piece had fallen into place. Lily began teaching beginners in the mornings before the Bluebird opened. Mrs. Chen provided coffee and muffins, creating what she proudly called the Bluebird Music Academy. It started with 3 students and quickly grew to 12, with a waiting list forming. The stage manager's voice broke through Lily's thoughts. 5 minutes, Ms. Reed." Ms. Reed. She was still getting used to being addressed that way. On the course roster at school, on the program at Riverfront, even on the small sign Mrs. Chen had placed near the piano at the Bluebird, "Weekend Piano Performances by Lily Reed." Her mother was in the audience tonight, having traveled from out of state for the occasion. Her health had improved enough for the trip, and seeing her sitting proudly in the front row beside Mrs. Chen and Ben would be both wonderful and terrifying. 2 minutes. Lily took another deep breath. The scholarship had covered most of her tuition, and between her performances, reduced diner hours, and the teaching income, she was managing financially for the first time in years. Her mother's medical bills were on a payment plan that no longer seemed impossible. Places. As Lily walked onto the stage, the applause washed over her. The spotlight felt warm on her skin as she bowed slightly, still not entirely comfortable with the attention. She caught sight of her mother, Mrs. Chen, and Ben in the front row, all beaming with pride, sitting at the gleaming grand piano, so different from the worn upright at the Bluebird. Lily placed her fingers on the keys. This program was more ambitious than anything she'd played before, featuring pieces she'd been studying in her classes alongside arrangements of the popular songs that had first won her an audience at the diner. The first notes rang out clear and confident, so unlike her hesitant beginning at the Bluebird months ago. As she played, Lily felt the familiar sensation of time slipping away, the world narrowing to just her hands on the keys and the music flowing between them. When she finished the first piece, the applause was immediate and enthusiastic. Looking out at the audience, Lily was struck by the diversity. College students who'd discovered her through social media videos, regular customers from the Bluebird, fellow musicians, and people who'd simply heard about the waitress who played piano. Between pieces, Lily shared brief stories, how she'd rediscovered music after years away, how Mrs. Chen had taken a chance on her, how her students at the Bluebird Music Academy inspired her daily. The formal recital setting gradually warmed into something more intimate, more like the Friday nights at the diner. During intermission, Lily stepped backstage for water and a moment to collect herself. Mrs. Winters appeared, elegant in a dark blue suit. "You've made remarkable progress," she said, her eyes shining. "I've recommended you for the advanced program next semester. The department head was in the audience tonight. He's impressed." Lily thanked her, still amazed by how quickly doors were opening. The advanced program would mean more intensive training, possibly leading to opportunities she'd never dared dream about, teaching positions, professional accompanying work, even graduate studies someday. For the second half of the program, Lily had planned something special. She invited Mrs. Chen onto the stage along with two of her most promising students from the Diner Academy. "Music is meant to be shared," Lily told the audience as they settled behind the piano together. "The Bluebird Diner taught me that. So tonight, I'm sharing my stage with the people who helped me find my way back to music." They played a simple piece arranged for 6 hands, Lily carrying the melody while Mrs. Chen and the students added harmonies. It wasn't technically perfect, but the joy on their faces captured the essence of what music meant to Lily now. When the final piece ended and Lily stood to take her bow, the audience rose in a standing ovation. Flowers appeared, a bouquet from Ben, another from her mother, and a single perfect lily from Mrs. Chen, who whispered, "Told you so," as she handed it over with a wink. Later, after the audience had dispersed and only close friends remained, Lily sat at the now silent piano, running her fingers lightly over the keys. "Penny for your thoughts," her mother said, sitting beside her on the bench. "I was just thinking about paths," Lily replied. "How sometimes the wrong turn leads exactly where you need to go. And where do you think you're heading now?" Lily looked around the empty concert hall, then thought of the Bluebird with its checkered floor and worn piano, the classroom where she was both student and teacher, and the small apartment where she practiced late into the night. "I'm not sure exactly," she said honestly, "but for the first time I'm excited about the journey instead of afraid of it." The next morning, Lily arrived at the Bluebird before dawn. She unlocked the door with the key Mrs. Chen had given her months ago and turned on just enough lights to see the piano in the corner. In a few hours, her first student would arrive, eager to learn. After lessons, she would help open the diner for the breakfast rush, don her apron for the weekend shift, and play a few songs during the lull before lunch. Tomorrow, she would be back at Riverfront for a charity event. Monday meant classes, Tuesday brought more students, and in between she would practice, compose, and continue building the bridges between her worlds. Lily sat at the Bluebird's piano, recently tuned by a professional, courtesy of Mrs. Chen, and played a quiet melody, one of her own compositions. Sunlight began to filter through the blinds, catching dust motes that danced in the air above the keys. Outside, the town was waking up. Inside, in the space between notes, Lily found the harmony she'd been seeking all along. Not a choice between worlds, but a symphony of her own creation, where service met music, and ordinary life became extraordinary through the power of shared passion.